Hi, everyone. I'm delighted to be here today on behalf of Accenture to talk to you about our global platform for engaging our women. Let me just get this going. And over the past year, we've been spending a lot of time to look at what's been going on in our history as an employer, as well as what our women are telling us. And we wanted to bring together all of these themes we're hearing in one platform. And so today I'm going to talk about defining success your way. We have over 90,000 female employees in Accenture, and we know that their success is critical to us as an organization. And it's also up to us to figure out how to meet their professional and personal aspirations and needs. So when we talk about defining success your way, a lot of effort was put into thinking about how do we engage our women. So we looked back at what we've been doing the last 10, 15, 20 years, and people are very good at giving us feedback, so we had quite a bit of that. And we looked at the types of initiatives that have become our standard offerings, customized training for our women, as well as the things that have developed in our various locations, more of grassroots types efforts that are working in ways to connect people to each other, provide a forum for exchanging ideas, and also enable us to retain strong female performers. Out of all of this came, I guess, the inspiration for our theme in defining success your way. We know that it's not a one-size-fits-all. We have over 260,000 employees worldwide, and it would be very boring if it was one-size-fits-all. I don't think we would have ever been able to grow to that scale. And to have over 35% of those employees be women, and that number continues to grow every year, there has to be something that's working for them. And so bringing together all of this, this research, the feedback that we've gotten, we decided to brand this and talk about defining success your way. So our objectives in getting this platform out there were really to make sure that people understand what's available to them. As I said before, we have 260,000 employees. It is sometimes hard to connect to somebody who might be like you, or somebody who's going through something that might be helpful to you. So we wanted to make sure that all of our women knew what was available out there in terms of corporate training, corporate initiatives, as well as have a way to be connected to each other. Additionally, we wanted to amplify our brand as a leading employer for women in the market, right? Over 50% of the kind of candidates out there are women, in some countries more, in some countries a little less, but irrespective, we want to make sure we're getting the best talent. And the only way we're going to get the best talent is if we tell our story. So with defining success your way, we looked at gathering those stories. We actually went about conducting some formal and informal research. I'll talk about the formal research in a second. But informally, we talked to our people. We talked to men and women. It's a partnership. You can't have success without both of those parties being engaged. We talked to people in different geographies, different age groups, different types of jobs. We did some live brainstorming sessions to see what do people want to hear, or not what do they want to hear, what are we hearing from people, and what do they want to do? What's important to them? And then finally, we talked to our leadership. What can we actually offer? With this many employees in over 50 countries, 200 locations, we need to have a model that works everywhere. So with that, we arrived at defining success. The goals are really to enable our women to thrive and develop women leaders. And I wanted to take a minute to tell you a little bit more about myself and why I'm here today. It's been a very powerful day with our speakers, and I don't want this to seem just like a corporate topic, because there are a lot of people that have challenges in the corporate environment. They might not be as emotional as some of the things we heard earlier today, but most of us have to work for a living, and we need to find a way to get that to fit into our lives and to accomplish lots of other things. So I've been with Accenture for 18 years. I started right out of university, and I also got married at the same time. So I was a new employee, a new wife, a new daughter-in-law, all those other roles that come along with that. And after about working for Accenture for just over a year, we had our first child. So now my son William is almost 17. And it's hard for me to separate my life as a working professional from my life as a mother. They're intertwined. It's like a grapevine. I don't know where one stops and one ends. But that's been part of my journey. And so, I was trying to make this work, being a young working mother. I didn't really have a peer group. Some people thought that, why are you even working? You should stay home. I got lots of advice, including countless emails and, long one-way conversations from my 5 sister-in-laws about how I should be a mother. But I kept working for Accenture. I really liked it. I found that, I was able to kind of balance, be able to take my child to daycare, get home on time. I was enjoying things. So I decided to add to the mix. We had another baby. My daughter Emma is now 15. And I still kept working. My career was progressing. I worked my way up to manager level. And then we had our 3rd child, Nolan, who just recently turned 11. So then I'm finding myself as a mother of 3, still, I think, relatively young for my peer group. And my husband has an equally as challenging job. And it was a little bit more than I could handle. And again, I was getting a lot of advice from people. Why are you working? Why are you stressing yourself out? It's not good for your children. They're going to, be social deviants if you leave them in daycare. I mean, so many things people tell you that you're not really interested in. So I was, just at a point where I thought, what am I going to do? Is my choice to stay home, or is my choice to just go to work and deal with it? And I talked about this pretty openly. I'm not one to keep things bottled up. And I found that people at Accenture were willing to help me. I got a lot of different types of suggestions. Try working from home 1 day a week. That was about the time, 2002, 2003, when instant message was all the rage. Mobile phones were no longer these large, chunky things. You could actually have conversations on them. So I started to experiment a little bit. But I found that what my priority was to really stabilize my family. I really needed that time to be a mother. But I wasn't ready to give up working. I mean, 1, I enjoyed the money. 2, I enjoyed the peer group. And 3, I believed in Accenture. So I opted to take a role that was part-time. And at this particular point in time, the role that was part-time was actually a career level below me. So I took a demotion, which again, I got a lot of unwanted advice about that. But Accenture said, well, if that's what you want to do, you don't have to. I said, I really need a job that's contained. It needs to be manageable because, I don't know how else to work through this right now. So for the next 2 years, I was a part-time employee. I was home every day before my kids, until they went to school, before they came home. I was making dinners. I really enjoyed myself. And I look back on that time as a huge investment in my family. And I'm hoping that's why we're so close today, or there's some other good things that have come out of that. But for me, it was a way to make peace. And we talk about forgiveness in our earlier discussion today. A lot of us are our own worst judges, right? We beat ourselves up every day about, what kind of wife, mother, sister, daughter, aunt, employee we are. We hold ourselves to such high standards that I don't even know how human beings can achieve those. But it was during that time when I was part-time that I actually forgave myself. I said, I don't know if I can be everything to everyone, but I find if I can find a happy spot, the people around me are actually happy. So I stayed home for 2 years part-time. I was still working, but I was home more often. And then when I was ready to turn it on, I applied again for a role with an Accenture. I moved back to that manager level. And 5 years later, I found myself in India as the HR lead for our largest entity. So I asked my husband in 2010 to quit his job, follow me to India. We packed up the kids and our dog, and we arrived. And I've been there ever since. So, I find that if you can figure out how to ask, there's some people who are willing to listen. And I'm very happy with that choice, although it was a little bit of a blow to the ego at times. But I recovered. And I share this story a lot with my folks in India because people are very career focused. They're looking at that next promotion, and there's huge family pressures there. Right? People are living in co-families, joint families, and it's very difficult to come to work and be able to be at peace that I'm working today and then I'm going to go home and I'm going to be a mother when your mother-in-law is, beating you up for that choice. So I do share this example because I think that we can find that happy medium for folks. And And now I'm going to go into a little bit more of our research, because I think some of our research has actually confirmed that we need to work towards that happy medium. So as many of you know, we celebrate International Women's Day. It's a UN-designated event to focus on celebrating the social, political, and economic success of women. Accenture has been a huge sponsor of this event for the last 9 years. We recently celebrated for the 3rd year here in the Middle East, I believe April 24th, so just about a week ago. And on our live day of celebration, we had over 18,000 people tune in 200 locations. And the reason that I mention this is because this is where we really launched the Defining Success Your Way to our employees. And we asked them to reflect on what's important to them. You know, we hire a very diverse group of people, and when we do that for a reason. It generates the best ideas. It makes us the most attractive to our clients, and it helps us raise the bar. But we also know with that diverse background, there's not one size fits all. And we need to hear from our employees, both men and women, about what's important. That's the only way we can shape for the future. So, as we talked to our folks at International Women's Day, we shared this research. You know, what is it that's important to people? Can you really have it all? And the numbers were very surprising. About 70% of the total respondents said, yes, you can have it all, both men and women. One of the interesting things, I've included some of the specific points here for the UAE and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is that about 50% of those folks that said, yes, you can have it all, also said you can't have it all at the same time. I know that's held true for me. I couldn't figure out how to have it all at the same time. Right now, I like to think maybe I'm having it all, but I'll have to, you know, my husband's not here to tell you if that's true or false. But, you know, people realize that there's a lot going on, and there are different times in your life when your professional or your personal priorities are going to take precedence. And as an employer, that's huge for us to hear from our people, because that helps us create some opportunities for them to on-ramp and off-ramp, like I did before this was a formal theme almost 10 years ago. In the UAE, it was about 50-50, and then in Saudi Arabia, about 77% said that they could have it all. So I hope as you're looking at this, you're thinking about yourself and, can I have it all? Do I have it all at the same time? And if you have it all at the same time, as Bexta said, please share with us, because that's inspiring, and we all need tips how to manage there. The other interesting piece was, what's the impact of work-life balance? Is that a priority for our people? And about half of the respondents actually told us that they've turned down a job at some point in their career because it was going to have too big of an impact to their work-life balance. When I go out and I talk to our employees, or I join my women's forum or my professional women's network, everybody talks about, how do you have work-life balance? I don't think I've ever had anyone give me the best answer. The most inspirational thing I've heard is that there's a synergy, there's an integration. And you have to figure out what that balance is for yourself. And you know, when I forgave myself for being a working mother and not being there for every single event that was happening in my kid's life, that's when I started to achieve my own integration. The other thing that we talked about in our research was the impact of technology. As a technology organization, we're oftentimes looking for ways to improve things for our people, for the governments we work with, for the communities we live in. And there's been a lot of great inventions and innovations over the years that have allowed us to have telecommuting, working remote, being able to be on the go, be connected. But it's also the thing that actually brings work into our personal lives. I was thinking about this particular point, and I'm reflecting on when my family sits down in the evening, if the kids aren't doing their homework, and we're watching TV, everybody's got an electronic device on their lap. Husband's got the iPad, this one has a laptop, one has iPod Touch, I have my laptop, there's phones on the table. I mean, it's hard for us to get away from that. And so I often will tell my family, I'm just shopping online, I'm not working. Because they're like, Mom, you're working again. And yes, most of the time I am shopping online in the evening, but you know, that is one of the things that's a challenge for us. And so it's really important for people to create boundaries. And however you create that boundary is really up to you. But my one kind of thing that I gleaned from this research is, if we don't set those boundaries, you know, your careers will just fill all the gaps in your life. right? There's always more work to do. And every company loves a person who's willing to just go nonstop. But we don't want to ask our employees to do that, and we don't want them to ask that of their peers either. The last thing that we talked about was the definition of success for people. So when we conducted this survey, and I forgot this point, the survey was about 4,000 people, large and small organizations in 33 countries. We had about 100 respondents from the Middle East. And these are not Accenture people, right? So we're looking to figure out kind of what is the market telling us. We do our own research, as I talked about earlier, through focus groups, but we really wanted to validate that with what people experience in other organizations. Work-life balance tops there. It's actually ahead of recognition, compensation, and autonomy. And I find that to be very inspiring to me, that people are taking a long-term approach to their career, that they're thinking about that there's more to life than just being in the office. And those are the kind of people that I want to work with. Those are the people that I can use as a role model as well. The interesting point here is that on the social impact, and this is what Bexa alluded to earlier, what are we doing to make a positive impact in the community? That's particularly important to our respondents in Saudi Arabia. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just a second. So at the end of the day, defining success is a joint responsibility. We really feel that as an employer, as a large multinational, we need to meet people halfway. And what that means is different in every geography. There's different social, political constraints, and we realize that people have a lot to deal with before they even get to the office. So when they're in the office, we need an environment that's collaborative, inclusive, and supportive so that we get the best out of them when they are there. So I encourage you, for whatever kind of walk of life you're in, whether you're in a community-based organization or you're part of a corporate or a multinational, that you create that environment that lets people reach back out to you. Because it's hearing from our employees through this research, through these dialogues, through just having a one-to-one conversation, that we get these ideas and we come up with ways to meet them halfway. We do have a very elaborate women's network. It is web-based at the moment, but we also offer a lot of virtual seminars. It's a great way for people to post blogs, chat, exchange ideas about what's going on. When you have 90,000 women, if you use the example earlier about getting all the women in Yemen in one room, if we could get all of our 90,000 women in one room, what would they say? What would that power be like? Would they feel better? Would they feel worse? Would they feel like they've got a sisterhood? Are they supported? So we are trying to do that through our women's network. And I personally love to go out there because I learn about what people are doing beyond Accenture. Writing books, donating to the community, creating patents, all kinds of interesting things. So that's been a huge success for us. And the other thing that I just would encourage, that as people go along in their career, and this is really for both men and women, that you work on networking. You develop that network internally and externally. And while I've talked a lot about what you can do internally with the women's network and asking for help, Accenture has a corporate citizenship program called Skills to Succeed, where we're really focused on equipping people in the communities that we live and work in with skills to improve their own lives. And this is not about becoming future employees for us. This could be about providing training for someone who's disabled so that they can get a job at a local eatery or a store so that they're rising above the poverty line. And what we find is that there are a lot of organizations that directly benefit women. I'm living in India now, and quite a few of the NGOs that we partner with actually do focus on women who have less access to healthcare, to education, or anything. And so we equip our employees with transportation, with time to go out there and donate their time to these NGOs, either through technology, volunteering. Sometimes it could be just as simple as helping to, build a facility. And we've already equipped over 300,000 people in the last few years. So I'll let, I think one of my other colleagues will talk a little bit more about our long-term goal. Oops. So I guess I'm done. The one other thing I just wanted to say is that today in the paper, The National, there is a headline about big change in attitude to women's place in the UAE. It's pretty interesting, especially about some of the things the government's doing with requiring a female presence on the board for a government organization. So check it out. It's not just about corporate, it's the place we live and work every day.